Thank you, sir. First, a question for both of you. Given the Republican skepticism of the Ukraine effort, do you worry that a second term for President Trump would be the end of an independent Ukraine? That's for both of you. And then,
First of all, with regard to political support for Ukraine, there is a strong bipartisan political support for Ukraine. Small number of Republicans who don't want to support Ukraine, but they don't speak for the majority, even the Republicans, in my view. We're in negotiations to get funding we need, not to promise, not making promises, but hopeful we can get there. I think we can. And you're right, the world's watching what we do. Would you send a horrible message to an aggressor and allies if we walked away at this time? And it would hurt our national security. Do you want me to answer the other question as well?
Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. So everybody's favorite Eastern European grifter was back in Washington. And while I'm sure he came to visit and say Merry Christmas to his business partner, Joe Biden, he really came to beg congressional Republicans. And basically what he's begging them for is for them to put your security and your border back on the usual low priority list so that you can provide for his security and that you can protect his border. And as you can imagine, that didn't go so well. And I'll get into all that. But first, I want to talk about how it went when he sat down and gave his little press show with President Joe Biden.
I think right direction, and I want to discuss with the president how to strengthen it, especially enhancing our air defense and ability to destroy Russia's logistics. Our goals for 24 are clear: take away Russia's superiority and disrupt their offensive operations. And I think it's real. And also some other important things. I met with the heads of American defense companies yesterday. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Really powerful companies. I thank them and thanks all the workers, engineers, managers who built and build the strength of American weapons, helping Ukraine boost the development of arsenals of democracy. President Biden agreed, and we spoke about it in September, to joint weapon co-production is very important for us, and we'll discuss how to speed up this. And we also need to work faster with the frozen Russian assets, over 300 billion frozen assets from terrorists, and we should use it to protect against Russian terror. And I want to talk about some details regarding our reforms and EU integration. Ukraine continues to reform its institutions even during the war. It's very important for us, and we are successful. I think that's very important, and people need to be confident that freedom is secure and strong enough to win. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you. Before the press, hey, whoa, hush up a second, okay? I got one more thing to say. I just signed another $200 million drawdown from the Department of Defense for Ukraine, and that'll be coming quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are you mad at me? President Biden, are you mad at me? Are you mad at me? Stand up.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Well, that cat and mouse game went on longer than it normally does.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack there, man. But first, I mean, can you guys believe that the White House press corps allows a president to talk to them like that without any pushback? I understand presidents get cranky, but no pushback. Just sit there and just take it. You know, if that was Donald Trump or any conservative president, they would be losing their mind, talking about transparency, talking about freedom of the press and blah, 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 and all the things they talk about. But when it's an angry Democrat, one who promised them that he'd be the most available and transparent administration in history, they're silent. And just so everyone's on the same page, you know, here's why it's even more important. That behavior, being an ornery old effer, really is a symptom of dementia. And still, these people are silent. So, I mean, that should tell us basically everything we need to know about how corrupt and how disingenuous most of the American media really is. And second, I mean, come on. Every time these guys get together, they move more of your money. And no one really seems to care. No one asks, how will this new $200 million be spent? What will it do? What is the money that we've already given achieved? And that's about $100 billion, by the way. No one asks. They don't ask how much is left. They don't ask how much our allies, who are actually Ukraine's neighbors, have contributed. They ask nothing because they don't care. But luckily, finally, someone actually does care. They're at least pretending really well to care. And surprising to everyone, it's a Republican. And at the time this whole show was going on, Speaker Mike Johnson was briefing the press on his own meeting with President Zelensky. And this, guys, you have to see.
Thank you all for being here. Just had a good meeting with President Zelensky. I reiterated to him that we stand with him and against Putin's brutal invasion. The American people stand for freedom, and they're on the right side of this fight. I have asked the White House since the day that I was handed the gavel as Speaker for clarity. We need a clear articulation of the strategy to allow Ukraine to win. And thus far, their responses have been insufficient. They have not provided us the clarity and the detail that we requested over and over since literally 24 hours after I was handed the gavel as Speaker of the House. And so what the Biden administration seems to be asking for is billions of additional dollars with no appropriate oversight, no clear strategy to win, and none of the answers that I think the American people are owed. I have also made very clear from day one that our first condition on any national security supplemental spending package is about our own national security first. The border is an absolute catastrophe, and this is because of the policies of this White House and this administration. We had 12,000 illegal crossings on one day last week alone, on Wednesday. We have almost now 280 known terrorists that have been apprehended at the border. None of this counts the gotaways. If you add the numbers up, it's almost 7 million people who have been encountered at the border just since President Biden took office, and at least 2 million gotaways. This is twice the population of my state of Louisiana. Fentanyl is the leading cause of death for Americans age 18 to 49 in this country. Fentanyl poisoning, because it's allowed over the border. We have human trafficking and all the other terrible things. In the last 3 months, October, November, December alone, we've had more illegal crossings at the border than in any entire year during the Obama administration. The American people see this. They feel it acutely. They see all the terrible societal ills that come from this, and it must be addressed. So I've made this very clear, again, from the very beginning when I was handed the gavel. We needed clarity on what we're doing in Ukraine and how we'll have proper oversight of the spending of precious taxpayer dollars of the American citizens, and we needed a transformative change at the border. Thus far, we've gotten neither. The Senate has been MIA on this. The House passed H.R. 2 6 months ago, more than 6 months ago. It's been sitting and collecting dust on Chuck Schumer's desk. I have told him personally, I've told the National Security Advisor, the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, that these are our conditions because these are the conditions of the American people. And we are resolute on that. It is not the House's issue right now. The issue is with the White House and the Senate. And I implore them to do their job because the time is urgent, and we do want to do the right thing here.
Yeah, so you guys see that. Obviously, I'm a little bit biased because, like you guys, I actually have common sense. But when I'm preparing for these videos, when I'm watching all these things, I'm always watching, I'm trying to think like a half-cooked leftist. I'm trying to imagine what are they going to see here, what will they hear here through their filters that they have installed. And honestly, I can't see anything that the speaker laid out that doesn't make complete and total sense, even to a leftist. And not just regular sense, but just the most simple, just base level of common sense possible. We all want to help, and we all want to do the right thing in Ukraine, and we all want to see a sovereign country retain their sovereignty. And I think Donald Trump said it best when we all want to see people stop dying. But what's going on over there cannot be our number one priority, with things like they are here at home. We got third world problems here. We don't have the ability to focus on other people's security first. We have to be our own number one priority. And the question I think we should be asking isn't why Republicans insist on tying border security, really America's security, with Ukrainian security. The question we should be asking is why the Democrats have an issue with that. If war in Eastern Europe is such a high priority for them, why not protect your own citizens to do it? You get your never-ending wars, and all we get is really what we should have had in the first place, some safeguards and some guarantees about our own security. That is not unreasonable. It's also not unreasonable to ask, what are the objectives and how is our money to be spent? Does this war actually have a vision for an end? Where does it end? How does it end? Because, without clarity, guys, without a plan, guys, it does not end. And I think, honestly, that's probably what the left really wants. I don't know if any of you guys saw months ago the Project Veritas video of that low-level BlackRock employee, but they don't want this to end. Everybody's making too much money. People are consolidating more power than they ever had in our history. And the icing on top of all that, they get to keep the same boogeyman that's responsible for Donald Trump and the PP tapes and Hillary not ascending to her rightful place on the American throne. That same evil Bond villain is responsible for all this, and he's got to be stopped. He must be stopped. So that's what this is all about, man. And if we allow them to continue that, isn't it reasonable to assume that we should be smart enough to provide for our own security, at least at the same time as we provide for another country's security? I understand Ukraine is a geopolitically important country. I understand that there has been a vicious, unjust invasion that has happened. And I understand that innocent people are dying every day. I get all that. And it is important. But if it is that important to the White House, then the White House should at least be able to attempt to explain the plan to Congress, explain the objectives, and how they actually plan to protect Americans at the same time. Now, all that said, I know how the Democrats are going to spin this, because it's nothing new. It's the same old play, the same old spin. They're going to say, the usual spin. Any refusal to do anything and everything that Joe Biden and Vladimir Zelensky demand means that you want Ukrainians dead. You hate democracy and you love Putin, blah, blah, blah. All that same tired old garbage. But the good news is people are starting to see through all this. Thank God. And unfortunately, the more people that die from fentanyl, and with every passing additional million illegal border crossings, it just wakes people up even more. And just for perspective, guys, let me know in the comments if you know what happens to people caught sneaking across the border in Ukraine from either the Russian side or from either east or west. And spoiler alert, it is not good. It's not good what happens to those people. But anyway, guys, that's all I got. I'm rambling a little bit. Guys, if you haven't already, help us to continue to grow. Really, really appreciate the support. If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. We'll see you in the next one.